I'll look at those first and then hold on. There we go. We go to the back and we'll cover those. Public Works. Sorry, this has a lot of those phased slides. Okay, so Article, yeah, 17. So this is to fund replacement of water mains. So this is being it's an article for $700,000 to be paid for through bond authorization. And it's an expansion on the project. So the Glad Valley project that was approved last year, we put a water main project in that. I believe that was 1.7 million. And then we're expanding that project from from Lexington down to Lock Road. So we're going to expand the water line as well. So we're asking for an additional bond authorization for $700,000 to expand that water line. So if you look at this map, everything in the blue is the original project scope, and then the red is what would be added, and that's where we would put this additional water line. So that water line desperately needs to be replaced, both from a standpoint of breaks and water pressure. So that's why we're doing it, and it's coming out of it's a bond authorization. And that whole project will be 1.7 plus 7 be $2.4 million. And that is it's in our capital plan. There's $30 million allowance for water work in the future. So it's included in that policy that the board acted on that I spoke of earlier. So this is Article 18. This is a routine article. We do this every year. It's $100,000 basically to replace hydrants and valves, and we take that out of water retained earnings. The work is actually done by the DPW, and this money pays for these hydrants, which are very expensive. Article 18 to fund the SCADA system upgrades at the water treatment plant. So this is a $25,000 appropriation from water retained earnings to upgrade our SCADA system, which hasn't been done since I believe like 2005 or something, some date back then. And this will allow us to move forward towards to do remote operations at the water treatment plant and possibly eliminating a third shift. So that's one of the reasons we're doing it. Hopefully it will ultimately save the town money. Then the fund the restoration of the Article 18. I don't know, these articles, one of this is wrong. Maybe this is 19. So to fund the restoration of the Fournier press system at the wastewater treatment plant, it's a $500,000 appropriation from sewer retained earnings to fund the design and construction associated with the restoration of two Fournier press systems at the wastewater treatment plant. And basically, not to get into too graphic, but what this does is basically compresses all the liquid out of the end product at the plant. And by doing that, it saves you a tremendous amount of money because you hauling away drier sludge as opposed to sludge that's filled with liquid. So this is important to do, and these systems are at the end of their useful life, need to be replaced. Article 21 is the boiler at the Billerica Fire Station headquarters has failed. It's $140,000 appropriation. We did receive a quote on this project, and this will cover the cost of the boiler, which is $130,000. and the water softener that goes with it to make sure to extend the life of the boiler and so that's an appropriation from free cash to fund this. Article 22 is the spot repair of the sewer main near Burnham Road along the MBTA railroad tracks. And this is an appropriation for wastewater retained earnings, the amount of $150,000 for the spot repair of the existing 42-inch diameter um, reinforced concrete gravity sewer main near Burnham Road and the MBTA tracks. This project is been somewhat of a nightmare because getting permits and working on MBTA property is next to impossible. So we need to get on there to do this repair. We have to hire someone who's properly insured to work on MBTA sites. So that's what we're trying to do is get this emergency repair completed ahead of the much bigger, and more expensive repair that was already acted on by town meeting. Article 28, transfer care, custody, and management control of two parcels. This is for the Yankee Doodle bike path. These two parcels, they're shown here in yellow. They abut the Yankee Doodle bike path. And that green is the green floodplain. So they're basically in a wet area. But those properties were taken by tax title many years ago. So we just need to reclassify them under the care and custody of the select board rather than the under the treasure collector. So that's what this article seeks to do, and it's all part of the easement process that we're working on to pave the way for the Yankee Doodle bike path. Article 29, this is a proactive step by the town to pursue easements along Boston Road from Allen Road or the Shawshene River to the Burlington Town line. The Mass DOT is doing a road project along this stretch of Boston Road. And we've been working with them to make sure that they include sidewalks in these areas. And they have expressed some hesitation to entertain sidewalks in any locations that may require an easement. So we are taking that upon ourselves to work out some of these easements if necessary in order to facilitate making sure that these sidewalks are included in this project. So again, this is a proactive step on the town's part. Don't expect it to cost the town significant money because these are little slivers of takings that really just to accommodate sidewalks in the right of way on Boston Road. So those are all the other articles besides the two big articles. I don't know if there are any questions on any of these articles, Clancy.
John, we have no hands raised.
All right, good. So I'll go back to the other two articles, the two big kahunas on the warrant. And I'll start with the town center. Just get up there. Okay, so the town center project is Article 14. So this is a project that I thought I would start with the finances because ultimately what's before town meeting is funding the project, not voting on the road design itself. That the roadway commissioners, which are the select board, actually vote on that. Well, obviously, I understand that town meeting members, probably going to make their decision based on whether they think it's a reasonable plan or not, which is fine. But I wanted to start with the money because that's really the primary responsibility of town meeting, and to explain how this is going to be financed. Because what I'm trying to do with this project is make sure that it has very little impact on the taxpayer, because we have so many other things going on in town that are going to have impacts on the taxpayer. As I mentioned with the policy that the board is looking at for the future, the big areas that will have impacts are things like the DPW, the COA, and the REC. And then the other things which we've already been planning for, like sewer work in the future and water work, those things also have an impact. But this project here, because it's a road project, there are opportunities to fund it through different sources that do not impact the local tax rate. So the goal is to come out of this thing not bonding any money at all. It's a $20 million project, and that would be the ultimate goal. But the problem is that you can't get the money all in one year. You have to spread it out over 3 years. So in order to move the project forward, statutorily, you're required to have a funding source in place before you can move forward with a project. So like we've done in the past with other projects, we would, like we've done with the roof on top of this building, town hall. We bonded $2 million, but then ultimately we we didn't ever issue the bond. We actually wiped it out with free cash over a period of years. And, we never issued the bond. But doing it that way allowed us to move forward with the project, take advantage of, current costs rather than delaying a project and have the cost escalate over a period of 3 years. So it has some value to do it this way. So we would have to bond a portion of this project, or at least authorize the bonding in order to move forward. So what we have in hand right now to fund the project is we have 3.1 million in ARPA money that will be going towards this project. And there's an appropriation for 2 million in free cash, 2.15 million in free cash on this warrant as well. And so that's about $5 million. And then what we would have to bond in order to allow the project to move forward is 15 million. We'd have to authorize 15 million. That doesn't mean that we would issue 15 million, but we would have to authorize it in order to move forward, which requires a 2/3 vote, which makes this which makes this project difficult to pass because it's such a high margin to do that. So if you look at the table on the left, this is really the funding plan of how we would get to a point where we're not issuing those bonds. So we will be able to fund 2 million from free cash in this year, which is on the warrant, which is the next article. The following year, we would fund 2 million. In the year following that, we would fund 2 million. That would be about $6 million in free cash. And then we have $2.5 million each year that we use for road work and our roadway management program. And we would take $1 million from that in FY25 to fund this project. Now, it is a roadway project, so it does fit into that category, and it is a roadway project that is going to be used by every resident in town, because most everyone in town drives through the town center. So that would be another source of funding. Now, what's critical about these 3 or 4 things I've mentioned is these are things that have already been raised, and they won't impact the tax rate any more than the tax rate has already been impacted. So that's 7 million with those 4 things. If you add in the following year at FY26 using $500,000 from that same account, and then Chapter 90, which is state money, $1 million over 2 years, and then the ARPA money that's already been allocated for this. And then over time, there will be overlay surplus that we would appropriate towards this project. All those things that will add up to $15 million, and all those things do not impact the tax rate. They do not cause taxes to go up. So that leaves a balance of 5 million. So what I've said is that the worst case scenario is we would bond $5 million if we don't come up with the 5 million. However, we have applied for a MassWorks grant, and we've also applied for federal funding earmarked through Congresswoman Trahan's office, and we could knock that number down with those 2 sources as well. So ultimately, the idea is to get down to zero with this project, but if we do bond any money, it would be between 0 and 5 million. And the impact of 0 to 5 million on the tax rate is very small. So if it was 5 million, it would be about $14. If it was 3 million, it would probably be about $8 million, $8 on it for the year. So the point is the impact of this project to your wallet is not as much as these other projects will be. And that's by design, because we don't want this project to interfere with these other projects. But it doesn't mean that this isn't a worthy project that shouldn't be done. It's just that we're taking advantage of ways to fund it that exist for roadway projects that don't exist for brick and mortar projects. You cannot get these outside sources for the COA, the REC, or the DPW. You can for schools, but that's the only brick and mortar project that you can actually get assistance for. So that's why we can actually work this out in a way that doesn't have a huge impact on the tax rate or any impact at all if it works out the right way. And the other question that has come up when I make this presentation is, well, if you're gonna do all this, what are we foregoing? What projects aren't happening? And so what I can tell you is that we are still, we can walk and chew gum, is the phrase I used yesterday, at the same time. We will still be doing water projects, we will still be doing sewer projects. They're still in our capital plan, and we will still be using free cash to fund these capital improvements like this year. Even though there's 2 million being taken from this project, we're still doing $1 million in capital for the schools. We're still doing $800,000 in capital for DPW vehicles and many other things as well, the boiler, the paving. So there are many other things that are still happening while this project is going on, and they will continue to happen through this project and then after this project. So that is the funding formula, and I think it's good because it will reduce a lot of people's concerns about the impact on what this project could have on the regular homeowner. So after discussing this, we go through the project itself, and just to give you some context. If you remember back to September of 2012, I certainly do. It was the first time that the Center project was put forward, and it did actually get approved by town meeting. And then there was a petition to put it before the public, and then at least part of it was overturned by the vote of the public back over 10 years ago. And then what happened was in 2014, there was money that was still approved by town meeting at that time that was not reversed by that vote. So that money, along with the MassWorks grant, like the one that I just mentioned in the previous slide, we were able to do that first phase of the town center, which was from Tower Farm Road up to Cummings Road, and all those ornamental streetlights, sinking the utilities and putting in a linear park, and all those things were done through that project. That project is about a $7 million project at the time. That whole project at the time was going to cost $20 million to do both legs of that project. So then some people are saying, well, why is it coming up again if the town already voted on it? Well, it's coming up again because the Board of Selectmen has made it part of their goals to move this forward and to do something with the town center. And so it came up in October of 2022, there was an appropriation by town meeting. So the town has already spent $1 million on this project to do design to get it to the point where we are today. But the select board had asked me to reinitiate the project. We actually got a grant through the Mass Downtown Initiative, and we were able to bring in a different engineering firm that reviewed the original plan, and they engaged stakeholders and looked at it and offered improvements to the plan, and that was the genesis for the plan that we have today. Unfortunately, what happened was that that was supposed to be presented to the board in March of 2020. And then, of course, COVID hit, so it was literally on the agenda to be presented. You know, to take it off because everything got consumed by COVID. And then it didn't come back up again until that summer of 2022, when we were then the town decided to move forward to spend $1 million to continue to design the project and get to the point where we are today. So having done that, we met with all the stakeholders in the downtown area. We met with all the commercial owners down there. We've spoken to whether it's O'Connor's or Manja Manja or Liberty Bell, you know, Branded Insurance, all of the businesses downtown. They've all received it very positively. And so much different than the first time around. I think there was some hesitancy the first time around because I think people weren't so confident that the project could be executed in an efficient fashion, because some of them remembered the project that happened in the 1980s. But this project would be managed by the town, like the one that was done from Tower Farm Road, and that project went very well. And I think some people recognize that, particularly some of the business owners in the town center that mentioned that to me. So this would be a town managed project, unlike the Boston Road North project, which is the one that goes from Town Hall down to 129. That is not managed by the town. We are involved in it, but we don't manage it. So we would like to see some of we're basically fighting with them right now about the condition of the road and trying to get that improved before the winter sets in. So but don't use that as a measure of how the project would go, because it's not a state project, it's a town project. So we've met with all these stakeholders. That's gone very well. Then we've had between 15 and 20 meetings over the summer with different groups, different boards, planning board, COA, recreation commission, library board of trustees. We met with the finance committee, the school committee, the holiday light committee, public safety, and the commercial stakeholders downtown. So we've gotten feedback from all of those entities and individuals, and we've tried to incorporate all of that into the current plan that you'll see tonight. So why would we do this project? There's basically three reasons why the project is goals of this project. One is to connect to previous Boston Road improvement projects and increase the economic opportunity for the town. So it is an economic development project as well as a road project. And I would ask you to look at the project that we did in front of Tower Farm Road and up to O'Connor's. That was a $7 million investment. It did help to spur investment in the mall property, which is a $40 million investment. And likewise, we would look here that if we invested this money in the town center, that some of you may know that there are several buildings that are up for sale in the town center. Potential buyers are going to look at that property differently and what the opportunities for that property are if this project is coming forward or if it's not, because the project will offer a lot to those properties that could make those much better uses than what's there currently. So the economic portion of this is a big piece of it. Another big piece of it was providing safety to pedestrians and walkways and street crossings. So the common today in the town center is very unfriendly for walking purposes. There are no controlled signals. There's really just one area with a controlled signal in the town center. So you cannot get really safe access to the town common itself because it's surrounded by traffic. And so this project would seek to provide access to the common on one side, and then also to provide much better pedestrian safety through larger sidewalks, through 8 controlled signals throughout the project, and cafe style seating on the commercial side of the street. So it'll be a great improvement from safety, particularly for pedestrians. And then traffic itself will be improved as well. The traffic on in this area, you have to, it's sort of an apples and oranges kind of thing. It's hard to compare the current condition with the improved condition because the current condition does not take into account pedestrian safety. So when you include pedestrian safety and allow for all these controlled signals, we're still able to improve the overall traffic flow through the town center, which is quite an achievement when you factor in the improvements for pedestrian safety. So the overall traffic is going to improve in the town center, and it will provide for bicycle accommodations. It'll connect the Yankee Doodle bike path in the bike lanes that run into the center now. And all the utilities will be undergrounded as well, like they were in the other project. So I think I've talked about some of these things already, but this is that shows you the plan itself. And so basically, if you look at this, and I think I can show you, I think I have a cursor here somewhere. Hard because everything's white. Hold on. There it is. So this is now becomes a two-way under the current design, and so the Concord Road would be eliminated as you would not be able to come down this way anymore. To go to Concord Road, oops, you would have to go up here and take a right onto Concord Road. And if you wanted to come in here, you could come in here for Blanchard Ave, and this is still a two-way here. But this becomes more of these are two raised crosswalks with red brick crosswalks, and this is pavers. So all of those are traffic calming measures, so that if you do come in here, you're coming in here strictly to park and use the facilities, and you can go out this way, but you cannot come in that way, sorry. So that will provide access to the common that we don't have today. And that's one of the big goals of the project. Another thing that you might notice is that here, the island on River Street is no longer an island. It is basically becomes contiguous with the town center. And that allows you to create the left-hand turn out of River Street, where today you have to go around the rotary to make that, to do that turn, which introduces traffic to the rotary and creates more problems. That moving the island over also creates contiguous park space with the common and increases the size of the common, and makes this a much more pleasant place to be. And you'll be able to have access to the monuments that previously were on an island surrounded by traffic. There will be, let's see where we go here next. So I'll talk about the parking next. So this is another one that was a big topic of discussion in the last go around. There was actually, today, if you look out there, there are 10 angled spaces. Let me get my cursor out here again. You can find it. There it is. Here are where the 10 angled spaces are today. There are 3 parallel parking spaces here. There are, I think, 6 parallel parking spaces here. So for a total of 19 existing spaces out here in currently under current conditions. So what we'll be looking to do is we would these would all change to parallel spaces, and the reason they're changing to parallel spaces is that in order to gain the right of way with two-way right of way, you have to get into the right of way, and we'd have to eliminate the barrier that's here for the angled spaces. But the parallel spaces here and down here and up here would add up to 17 parallel spaces. And then we'd also be adding 10 spaces right here through an easement through O'Connor's, which we've sat down and talked to them about, and they did not oppose that plan. So what would happen is you now have 27 spaces on this side of the street as opposed to 19 currently. And some people, I like to park in the angled spaces, but the parallel spaces do provide a barrier to the 10-foot sidewalk that is now present in front of these stores, which will allow for cafe seating. So parallel parking by design is actually not a bad thing in this type of environment because it provides a level of comfort to the people that are using that space. So there is other parking that is on this side of the street. This is new parking. I believe there are 13 spaces that are being added here. And there will be an two EV spaces, and also ADA spaces will be included here as well. But these 13 spaces will be able to be used by the municipal side of the street here. But because there are now 8 controlled signals, people can now go across the street, park here and safely cross the street without, worrying about, taking their life in their hands. There's also additional parking over here this is existing parking, this will be new parking. But those are the two big issues, the two big areas of changes with parking. Trees is also another topic of conversation with the town center. So there are 26 trees that are scheduled to be removed. But of those 26 trees, 11 of those trees are invasive species trees, which are Norway spruce trees, Norway maple trees, and those are trees you probably wouldn't want to have out there anyway. And there are weak and damaged trees. So this map has the legend shows you that the weak and damaged trees are orange, invasive species trees are sort of a mustard color. So anything that's orange or mustard are things that probably won't be out there anyway much longer because they're going to be removed because they're damaged trees, or they're invasive species trees. But of those 26 trees, 9 are being removed because of construction. So those are the pink trees, and those are these trees here, and there's a tree here and a tree over here. So of those 26 trees, only 9 are really being affected by construction. All of those trees are going to be replaced by 28 new trees in and around the site. So if you see any of these empty circles, represent new trees that will be planted. And the green trees represent trees that are there today that are not being removed. So, there's a lot of information out on social media that says we're going to cut down all the trees. And you look here, the most prevalent symbol out here are the green trees. So most of the trees are going to remain. And the trees that are being removed, most of them are invasive species trees or disease trees. So the idea is at the end, it'll be an improvement to the site from a perspective of trees. The historic elements, most of them will remain the same. There is some alignment that will be changed here between the War Memorial and the Concord Road marker and the cannon. And then these H&I, which is the trough and the fountain, will be moved over when this island is changed. But other than that, most of all these historic elements are going to be saved or remain in place. We will be providing uplighting to make them more visible in the town center. This is an old map, just to give you perspective of when they did this back in the 70s, and everyone wants to preserve the town common. They actually reduced the size of the common when they did that project in the 70s or the early 80s. And they shrank it by roughly 5,000 square feet. So what we're doing is we're actually adding 11,000 square feet to the town center. And that does not include the River Street portion. So we're not, for the sake of discussion, we're not cheating and including that as part of the expansion. The expansion is this piece in the green. So the town center is actually getting bigger under this design. It's actually adding to the common. So these are the existing pedestrian crossings. Right here is the blue. So these are the only protected crosswalks right now. And then these are not protected. These are flashing signals, which are used quite a bit, but they are not the optimal type of crossing you would like. And there's a certain amount of liability that is associated with them because they are cautionary and people don't always stop. We have had one accident with someone being hit in one of these crosswalks. And worse is that these are not protected at all. There's no crossing signals with these lights at all. So if you today, if you want to cross anyway, you've got to go down here if you want to truly cross at a safe crossing space. So this is these are all the protected crossings that will be allowed under the new plan. And you see, I believe there are 8 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So all of these will be protected crossings that you can hit the light and the light will turn red and you can cross the street. So that'll be very advantageous for these spaces here, and good for the senior center because a lot of people I've heard today someone talking about how they drive over there if they want to get something to eat. So now they would be able to walk over there in safety. So that's one of the advantages. These are raised crosswalks to get out here onto the common. So they will provide a level of safety as well. So this is a sort of a bigger plan that shows you, I've talked about a lot of this already, but you can see the shared use bike path that's in here and the brick accents that are around common. These are the aesthetic improvements. The accents around each of these monuments will help to dress up the site. And the shared use bike, this is a bike path and a pedestrian path. It's 10 feet wide, so it'll be very wide to accommodate both users. And it does connect to my cursor disappeared. There it is. So this is the bike path coming up from the project we already did. So if you want to go through the common, you would come across here, go across here and run up this through the shared use lane, and then you'd stay up here and you could then go across here and get onto this bike lane, or you could go down here and pick up the Yankee Doodle bike path at Good Street. But what's great about this plan is that it does connect all of these bike paths. There's also a bike path going down. This shared use connects to a bike path on Concord Road. So it does have connectivity to all of these different areas throughout this project. This is a rumble strip here that will be, help to provide safety, but use the delivery trucks will still be able to go in here for O'Connor's, which is one of their concerns. That's, I think I covered a lot of that. Then this is a little, just for your information, there is a right-of-way reorganization here that is taking place that will accommodate the possibility of a new senior center in the future. And what it does is, if I can, there's my cursor. This is the old senior center right here, and oops. And by bumping this road out this way and turning up this way, it does provide some traffic improvements, but it also provides more space. This right of way, this is the Concord Road right of way, now becomes part of becomes town property. It is town property, but it'll fall into the select board bucket instead of the roadway bucket. And then this becomes the roadway shifts. But what that does is you can see a conceptual footprint that's dropped here. It shows that you could actually fit a building there without closing this building or tearing it down. So that's important because that will be a huge cost in the future if the town decides to build a COA on the same site and they have to tear down the current location. There would be a huge relocation cost for the time during that project. So this will allow for that accommodation. for the future. So these shows you some of the different travel routes that that no longer happen. So what is in the blue is the existing traffic flow, and then what's in the yellow is the new traffic flow. So and also so if you look at the blue, you have to go if you want to go down, like when I'm going home, I go down here and I come up here and I take a right. Now I'll just go straight. I'll be in the yellow. I'll go straight down. If you're coming off River Street, you want to go left, you gotta go blue, you gotta go around. If you wanted to go to Andover Road today, in the old way, you'd have to go around the common to get to Andover Road. In the new way, you can just come over here and take a left. So those two movements are gonna take significant amount of traffic out of the common. So what's also important is these movements save a significant amount of travel time, particularly for public safety vehicles. So you're gonna save a minute 20, so you're gonna go from a minute 20 to 32 seconds. If you're an ambulance or a fire truck or even a cruiser, that could be very valuable time for a resident that's in distress. So this one here is the movement. This is for going down Andover Road. So if you're going down Andover Road today, it takes you a minute 20 to get through. If under the new scenario, it takes you 32 seconds. That's a big change in time. Similarly, if you were coming up River Street and you would be saving, you would go from a minute 14 in travel time to 28 seconds. So it's more than 30 seconds in each scenario that you're saving, and especially with an emergency vehicle, that could be very important. And then this is if you were going, this is I guess my route when I travel south on Boston Road. It's not as much, but you do still save a little time. It goes from 52 seconds to a minute down to 52 seconds. And then these are some conceptual drawings, plans that just show you what it might look like. So when I talked about that shared use bike path, that's this here, and you can see the scale of the people on it and how big it actually is. And you can see that this is the area where the parking is and the access to the common. These are the raised crosswalks. And over here, you have the cafe, the 10-foot sidewalks that will allow for cafe-style seating. And then this is looking at southwest, and you can see that area where there's the pavers and the parking in here as well, along with the ornamental lighting here in the center. And you get a better view of what the sidewalk might look like with cafe tables on it. This is a different perspective showing you basically the common and some of the walkways through the common, as well as looking the opposite side of the street over at the commercial sector with the cafe streets. And then this is coming up River Street. This is Eva Marshall's house here. So this is the island would be contiguous with this side of the street. And you can see that it does provide for a lot more green space, a bigger buffer for this house against the road, which I think is a good thing. There will still be curb cut access for that residential property on River Street. And this is a close-up of what would be the cafe style seating on the commercial sector. And you can see also that the parallel parking provides a 3-foot buffer in between so that when you open your door, it doesn't get taken off. And that's it for that article. I guess I'm gonna open it up. That was a long presentation, but I'll open it up and answer any questions you might have. I'll try to, and if I don't have an answer, I'll try to get one for you.
John, first up is Marlies Henderson. Go ahead, Marlies.
Hi, Molly.
Thank you. I have 4 questions. When you have Article 14 and Article 15, do both need to pass or one or the other?
They both need to pass.
Okay. And I was wondering if you had considered using Complete Streets funding?
We have, and we are pursuing that, and that's, a smaller amount than some of these other bigger grants we're looking at, but we are pursuing them. And that would be, so that 5 million that's left, that's one of the sources we'll be looking to knock it down with.
Yeah, because I think we are eligible for 400,000
Yeah,
a
yep,
year.
yes, we are.
Would you explain again the Council on Aging ingress and egress in the new traffic flow?
Okay, yeah. Yes, I didn't
So with the new, yeah, with this one. So it looks green, but I suppose it's not gonna be green.
So that green is just merely to show you the area of the road
Yeah.
that is now being taken by the select board property. So basically, it'll be not all that much different, except that you'll still be able to come in here on this side of the property like you can today.
Mhm.
So you still be able to come that way, but you'll also be able to, you'll come in, you can come in this way and take a right onto, left onto Blanchard Street and come in here, and there'll be a lot more parking if this is built out, because when you push that up, it will open up parking in the rear for that site. And in the way that the conceptual design that they were working on shows a lot more, this will be connected to the center as well. There'd be a pavilion out here, and it would provide a lot of connectivity and encourage people to use the center as the front lawn, basically.
Okay, yeah, so it looked a little bit like that was a road in front,
What,
but
right, hold on, right
yeah,
here?
yeah,
No, what you're seeing there is the road underneath.
yeah.
So, yeah. So
So
this
coming
this
from
is the
Concord,
outline of the building.
Mhm,
So, but it happens to coincide with the line of the island that's currently there today,
mhm,
but that would go away.
I see. So if you're coming from Concord Road from the highway, so to speak, from Page's Court, Concord Road,
Yeah,
then you just wait for the traffic coming from the other side and you take a left there,
yeah, you can take a left right here, like you
like
can.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Um, then that's the last one is the last time I looked at the tip list, I have a little trouble finding it today because they changed their website. But the Berica Center was on the tip list for 2029. Would that have any influence on the monies you're seeking to get from the state or the Fed?
so 2029. It's what is it listed at? What are you seeing on there for 2029 for the Billerica Center?
Billerica Center improvements. I don't have the printed tip in front of me, but that's what I recall seeing 2029 for the
Was there a
center.
dollar amount associated with it?
I don't know. I don't see it in front of me. It's just that
That could be the Glad Valley project. I'll look into that.
Mm,
I don't have an answer for you for that, but I'm
maybe
curious.
for the later. Yeah.
Yeah, you piqued my interest.
Yeah. Thank you. That's it.
And Marlies, just,
Mhm.
you sort of reminded me that what this will also allow for is the farmer's market will be able to come back to the town center and and branch out into the town center on the common, because they'll have much greater access to it now. And that would be a great thing for the town center.
Oh
Okay,
yeah, the farmers market in the center was better for me, but
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't be I can't be egoistic here. But yeah, that I could bike. Pinehurst is a little far. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Marlies.
Thank you.
Any other ones, Clancy? Oh, I can't hear you. You must have
Oh,
muted.
Ilya, go ahead. I muted myself by accident.
Yeah,
Okay.
no worries. Hi, I'm Mr. Karen. Thank you for the presentation. I had a question on the walk and chew gum kind of comments. So how much money does the town get through Chapter 90 funds per year currently?
About 1.3 million a year.
Okay, so by setting aside 500,000, just rough math, about 40% reduction in funding for kind of your annual roadway improvement through the
Right.
town
Right.
is what would be the trade-off by doing this.
Yeah, and not to get too deep into the weeds, but a lot of times what we do is we can only do so much road work at a time. So we don't always use all our Chapter 90 money all at once. And so sometimes, we might be using Chapter 90 money. Sometimes we might be using money from a sewer bond because we're doing so much road work related to a sewer project. So there are ways that we can make this all work out so that, you'll still be plenty of work going on. It just, we just gotta shift things around a little bit, but there'll still be a lot of work going on in town. In fact, we received some complaints about how much how much is going on in town. Like this year, we did 49 different neighborhoods. And then in last year, I think we did 25. So they're all out on the DPW website, but we've been quite aggressive about what we
Yeah,
do.
and I really applaud you guys for doing that. I mean, I'm in the Lake region, and I think we're up next for this year.
Yeah,
I
yes.
just want to make sure that we're not going to pause that aggressive investment in our infrastructure for 2 or 3 years to do this project. It sounds like maybe a reduction by 40%, but not an elimination.
No, not definitely not an elimination. And one other thing, I don't know if I mentioned it in the presentation, but when I came here back in 2011, the town spent zero local dollars on road work, zero. And they relied 100% on Chapter 90 money. So they were spending $1 million on road work. Um, and that was it. But today we've built it up so that we spend $2 million on road work annually from local funding, and 1 million or 1.3 million or so from Chapter 90. So we've increased our road work spending by 200%, and we did it through local appropriations. And so we are very much committed to doing more road work in town. And Billerica is a significantly large community. It's one of the largest in the Commonwealth, 210 miles of road and 26 square miles of property. So there's a lot of work that we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. John, the next up is Susan McAdams Rogers. Go ahead, Susan. You just have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Clancy, and thank you, Town Manager, for taking my questions. Just watching you do this presentation on the center raises more questions than I ever thought I would have. So I won't go through all of them. But in regards to the way Boston Road would be north and south, are you talking 2 lanes each way if the proposal goes through?
So good question. And it's a question that's come up before.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at what's on there now, can you see the proposed preliminary plan?
Yes, I see.
Okay, so there'll be 2 lanes going north and 1 dedicated lane going straight south and 1 dedicated lane for right-hand turns. Now, one question that came up about particularly this 1 dedicated lane going south, people raised concerns about, is that enough? Is 1 lane enough for the traffic that goes south?
Correct.
And so it's a great question, but when you walk through it and you think it through, it actually makes sense, because what happens today is that cars come down Concord Road, they come into 1 lane to go south, and then they come up and they go this way. And
Okay.
not only do the cars that are going south get into that one lane, but the cars that are trying to go north from River Street are also getting in that lane. And the cars that are trying to go to Andover Road are getting into that lane. And the cars that are trying to go to O'Connor's Plaza are getting in that lane.
The
So what
outer
we're
lane.
doing is we're taking that lane and taking those three trips out of it. Andover Road, Boston Road North, and O'Connor's Plaza, and making it exclusive to Boston Road South traffic. And so it should accommodate that traffic because it accommodates a lot more today. And then we do have a dedicated left-hand turn into O'Connor's, and we have the dedicated left-hand turn going right down to, I guess, Route 3. So it does work when you think it through. And then going north, there are 2 lanes of traffic going north. And that actually is kind of what you have today, because 2 lanes go north and 2 lanes go around the rotary. So,
There's the motion, yes, the circular.
right. So it all makes sense when you think it through. This stuff should be accommodated. It's just that now it's linear. It's not in a rotary, it's linear. And by making it linear, you can sequence the traffic lights, control the traffic better, and also slow the traffic down. People, oh, it's gonna become a highway. It can't become a highway if you have 3 traffic lights within a couple of 100 feet of each other. And when you look at the traffic studies, they basically say that the average speed coming through the town center is around 19 to 20 miles an hour. And that's what it would remain, even if this project goes through. And you don't want it to be more than that. You want people to go slow through the center. Of course, that'll change in the middle of the night, but but when the main traffic is going through, it will not be a speedway. It will be very well controlled by this layout.
Well, now with all the proposed streetlights, it appears to me that that would really slow the movement through the center. Even if they're synchronized, because you'll have pedestrians interrupting that if they want to get across. Will it go back into the
So that's kind of what
lights were?
That's what I mentioned earlier in the presentation, is that when they did these studies and they accounted for that, so there's 30 seconds usually associated with the traffic crossing. So the engineers accounted for that, and the travel time going through the center is still improved, even though you astutely observed that now you have to accommodate pedestrian crossings. So that it will be, because you're taking traffic out of these movements, like the Andover Road movement and the north on Boston Road, because you're pulling volume out of it, you're still able to achieve some traffic improvements in the center, even though you're accommodating the pedestrian crossings.
Okay. And with the work that's being done going north currently past the town hall area on the road, and then this project, and then with the proposed Glad Valley Drive project area with the lights and the crossings there. I think we spoke on that at some time when I had come up to the office. Will you wait until all of it is done to resurface, or will you resurface the projects as they go?
So they would be resurfaced as they're completed. So it looks like, from what we're seeing, is that that Boston Road North project that's currently underway will be done in, I think, a year. And so this project is not going to start for at least a year. So when that project is finishing up, this project would start. And then what will happen is that Glad Valley Road project is on the tip for, I think, 2027. And so that one's a few years out. So that one none of these projects will happen simultaneously. They'll happen in tandem. Which admittedly, I think that'll offer some construction fatigue for people, because, there's always something going on. But
Hmm.
these opportunities, one of the things that has come up in the master plan is that, improvements to Boston Road is a goal that the town has had And obviously the center is probably the biggest piece of that.
Oh my gosh, yes, this sounds like a huge project. Okay, well, I guess that would be it for about now. It's just, now is with the River Street, is there any way the town could look at doing something with that? So with the current situation we have, just by adding a light there, would that really not do it right now without this whole project happening?
You mean do River Street, just do River Street and don't do the rest of it?
Possibly. I mean, could by adding a light for that, because you seem to be very concerned about people that have to come up River Street and go around the current common to go north essentially.
So my understanding, I'm not a traffic engineer, but my understanding from going through this whole process is that it isn't as simple as you making one change. It's like more like a domino effect. If you change one thing, you have to address the other things.
Okay,
And so it isn't that simple to just make the one change.
no, it doesn't always look that way on the drawing board, does it? It's just, I know I've lived through the 1980s. That's how long, and then some I've been in town. And the reason they did what we currently have is because of the flow, to make it better, so we could get in and out of through the center easier. Because there were no lights, there were no traffic signals back in the 80s, and they had to come up with some way to move the traffic better. Coming up off of Andover Road back at that time, you just went on a wing and a prayer, hoping that as you left Andover Road to cross 3A to get over to Concord, somebody didn't swipe you. But then there wasn't as much traffic either. But that's how the current situation ended up being what it is today. Because the
That-
traffic studies back then worked for what we have today.
So that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad, it's interesting that you were here when that happened, because I obviously wasn't, but I read about it. What I gleaned from reading about that project in the 70s and the 80s was that the primary focus of that project and the problem was that area that you mentioned, which was all those intersections coming into an area that had no signalization at all. And that was what they wanted to resolve. And they weren't thinking about pedestrian safety at that time because it probably wasn't a high priority. And like you said, there wasn't as much traffic in those days. But what they did was they came up with a solution that resolved that giant octopus of an intersection, and they came up with a rotary configuration. So I'm not faulting for them for what they did back then. They had a different set of problems back then that they were addressing, and that's how they chose to address it. But things have changed, times have changed, and this isn't the same plan. This isn't the same design that was back in the 1980s. It is different. But it's trying to address the issues we have today in 2023.
Correct. Oh, now, thank you for that. But going back to when a car comes out of River Street and now you're going to turn right, let's say. So you're going to try to get over so you can go south on 3A. They'll have to
Okay.
go out and on that inside lane. They'd have to stay in that middle lane to go south. I mean, you wouldn't stay in the right-hand lane because that'd only bring you over to Concord, right?
Yeah, you'd have to move over. You'd have to move over. And
Two
you
lanes,
would be able to do that because this is a dedicated right-hand lane. So
correct.
you can pick any one of those lanes.
Oh,
And
they'll be spaced.
you'd pick the middle lane if you were going south.
Okay. Because then there's got to be a light then
Yes.
on 3A, so that those people coming out of River Street, be it left or right, can make those turns. And the traffic light then coming up into the center, which would be 3A, if I'm following that correctly, that light would be red so people could get off of River Street.
Yes, I think I have a slide that shows that, yeah, so you can see the lights, see how there's lights
Oh, okay, here we go.
So yes, you'll be able, this will be a controlled signal, so you'll be able to go right here, not worry about being hit by any traffic coming this way. And similarly, you'll be able to go left because this is all controlled as well, so. Um, so yes, so to answer your question, yes, that'll all be controlled. You should be able to do it without any conflict. And that's one of the things about this plan is it eliminates a lot of the conflicts that exist in the current situation. Biggest one, of course, is this weave that happens on Cummings and Concord Road.
Yes, I think, and then if you got a big truck coming through at the time, you've got to give them the right of way so that, you know, they're not picking you up as a piece of their truck as they make that wide swing. Yeah, it's a circle isn't conducive to those big trucks. when they
Right.
Turns.
Right. So it does
Okay.
eliminate that. So there, you know what else is in here? There was people always bring up that accident that happened on this corner.
Oh my
The
gosh,
kid
yes.
that was hit. There are not going to be many right-hand turns here because if you're going, oops, sorry. If you're going right, you will have already gone right on Johnstaff if you're coming up here. And you're not coming from Concord Road anymore to come up here to go right. You're coming straight. So all those right-hand turns that used to come up here, like me, going down towards my house,
Mm-hmm.
would be, I would be in this lane now. So there are gonna be very few, if you go into the post office, you might come up here and go right, but there are very few reasons why people will be taking a right on that corner.
So is Cummings going to be 3 lanes? Oh, no, Concord
It
Road?
is, it's 2 lanes with a bike path. And then, so maybe I can make this bigger. I don't know if I can, yeah, I can. So this, you can go right, left, or straight, but like I said, there won't be very many right-hand turns on this, from this lane. But there will be probably a lot of left-hand turns from this, there'll be left-hand turns here. But then you could go, this is where you would go to go across to O'Connor's.
Sure. So now, Mr. Curran, if I've got it right, that little skinny lane is the bikes
Yes,
over there on Concord?
this
Oh.
little lane here, yeah,
Yes, that one right there.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. I don't want to keep you, but I appreciate you answering my
No,
questions.
no problem. Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. John, next up is Kelly Sardina. Go ahead, Kelly, you're in the meeting.
Just a couple of questions on the funding, just so I understand it. The Arbor money you have on there, it says 3.1 million.
Yes,
Okay, because when I looked, wasn't there like 4.3 left over, to go towards SOAR?
no, there was only 3.1.
Right, all right. Because I was just getting that from the town website and from the meeting minutes with the selectmen. So,
So
all
no,
right,
if you look at the town website, I believe that's the number, 3.137.
yeah, I think they had 4.3 and change. I didn't write the whole thing down, but I can probably pull it up if you want
That
it.
was probably an old one because as they modified the plan, what was left at the end of the day for that sewer project was 3.1. And that's the amount that they moved over to the town center project.
All right, so some of it you already applied onto that. Okay, so they've already done some of the sewer work. What was,
Oh, something happened, hold on.
Yeah, I was sharing my screen, John. I just pulled up the website. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, hold on.
Whoops, I can't see it, but
I can't see it.
oh, there it is, there it is.
There it-
Yeah. So
Okay,
right
So
there,
there it
left
is.
over towards SOAR 3.1.
3.1. All right, thank you on that. Now my other one. Let me see. My next question is the chapter 90. Another gentleman asked a question on it because you have 500 K in 24 and 25. Now, I think you said we received 1.3 million in the chapter 90 money.
You see roughly 1.3 million a year from
Yeah,
chapter
so-
90.
All right, so, and then you said 2 million in local funding for road work, correct?
Right, right.
All right, so with that, now that local funding, is that counting the capitals appropriation, what we've been putting into it from 2020. I think it was the in 2019, that fall warrant article I speak about often.
The Nashua Road
15.
one, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so
So-
there's 2 million, so there's 2 million that goes directly towards infrastructure work. There's 500,000 that goes towards capital, which is not, it's like where we buy we do, repairs to town hall and things like that
Right,
out of that money, so, but the 2 million is strictly for infrastructure like sidewalks and roads.
okay. Only because, I remember that meeting and I remember at one point hearing 4.5, but I mean, I'll go back and review it again. Maybe I heard wrong.
No, so that's a very good point. So that number you're talking about is the number that we got, the study that we did about trying to reach a certain amount of spending that would allow us to work toward a grade level that we want to achieve, like roads are grade like a paper, I'd say 75%. And I think that was the level we wanted to reach. And the consultant that we hired to do the study said you could be spending $4.5 million a year on road work, but that also included sidewalks. So we
Okay.
currently spend, let's say, with 3.3 million on road work. But we also spend money out of sewer appropriations for road work. So we probably do hit that 4 million number quite often because of all the projects we do. But the real goal would be to eventually get to a point where we are, exclusively dedicating that level of money towards road work on an annual basis. But that's why we took that National Road money and made it permanent, because we're trying to work toward that end. And we'll eventually get there, but you don't want to get there all at once because it has an impact on people's taxes. So we didn't want to do it all at once, but that is the goal, and that's
Okay.
interesting that you called that out.
So it wouldn't be any harm or wouldn't hurt us in any way, say, because you have in the 14 or 15, you have in there in 2025, 1 million, and then in 26, the year 26, it goes to 500K. So removing that out of that funding wouldn't hurt
No,
our,
because we're still spending the money on road work, so we're
Right.
still fulfilling that goal of spending money on road work.
but so it wouldn't hurt it on any, I guess the question is, it's not going to affect us on not doing so much road work over here because we've used some of our capital money.
I understand what you're saying, but I think we're okay because there are other things we do to reach that goal. Like we've changed we don't just do strictly paving anymore. We do milling, we do treatment, road treatments now.
Yep.
We do skim coating, different things that are not as expensive, but you get more for your money. You get more road for your money. So there are things like that we're doing that are helping us to reach that end too.
Well, I'll agree with that one because the treatment, what they did spraying the roads for before the winters came, helped a lot on
Yeah.
icing and stuff like that. That does help a lot. We don't have to use as much sand. With that, you did mention the sewer, and I know in our sewer projects, we do include, repaving the roads after we, do whatever work what needs to be done on a sewer. Am I correct on that?
Yes,
Is
that's
there-
why I mentioned that
Okay.
even though we spend 3.5 million on road work, there's actually more that gets spent because of the sewer projects that are going on.
Okay, so, and then, the other one is with the, let's see, the free cash. Now, you had said earlier when I had asked a question with free cash, you said it's a little bit over 5 million. If
Yeah,
we,
5.275.
so if we take in the long picture, borrowing money from the free cash, even if it's like 500,000, we're kind of taking, or even if it's 1 million from our free cash, I think in free cash you have on here 2 million, when I'm looking at it on the chart. Wouldn't that be almost taking half of our free cash? Is that something we want to do, since it was only, I mean, in 21, I think free cash was a little over 5 million. 22, the same, it kind of went down some, and now going into 23, 24 year, is that really something that we want to borrow from or take funds from? It's almost like we're taking half. If I look at your financial goal, not starting point, you've got 23, 24, and 25 at 2 million.
Right, so we, like you said, we have about 5.2 million, so 2 million of that is taken from that 5 million. But you have to remember that our free cash also includes wastewater retained earnings and water retained earnings. So there's 1.4 million in water retained earnings and 2.4 million in wastewater retained earnings. So for example, when we take that 1.8 million from free cash to go towards debt stabilization, we're not taking it exclusively from free cash. We're taking $1 million from free cash and 1.3 million from free cash and 500 from retained earnings free cash. So the pool is bigger than the 5 million. It's closer to 8 million. So,
Right.
and we use that money for, like we use it for water, wastewater, and general obligations. But so it is a bigger pool, and that's why we're able to do it, because we still have other resources, free cash resources that we can use to do these things. Like Clancy, you could probably do it quicker than I can, but could you share the free cash page?
Yep, give me 1 sec.
Yeah, well, he's doing that because I mean, I'm just getting it from like my books from town meeting, and I see what you're saying because our general fund free cash in 22 was 5.1 million, and then enterprise fund for water was 3.1, and sewer was 2.9. So that was in 22. So I guess what I'm saying is like my question I asked earlier too was free cash general fund is, I think you said a little bit over 5 million. So
Yeah.
in doing this, we would be using the general fund, correct? For free cash, or because
Yeah,
they're,
we'd be using general fund free cash, right?
all right, so then we would be taking, if we're taking 2 million from that, we're basically taking almost half of it.
We're taking not half of it, we're taking 2 million out of 5 million, but like I
So we
said,
would
it's
do
a
that.
bigger number, it's 2 million plus one. So here is the free cash to illustrate what we can achieve, even though we're taking 2 million out of free cash. We're still doing 1.3 million to debt stabilization. We're buying $500,000 worth of DPW vehicles. We're buying $120,000 worth of fire vehicles, $63,000 on paving. We're spending $1 million on school capital, $140,000 on a boiler, and we're appropriating that 2 million towards the town center. And then in addition to that, we're spending $500,000 from retained earnings on debt stabilization, $150,000 on repairs to the sewer work, $500,000 towards DPW vehicles, water vehicles, $100,000 on hydrant replacements, and $425,000 for a new SCADA system. So even though we're taking that $2 million out of free cash, we're doing about 12 other things at the same time. So we don't operate in a silo. We're able to do these other things because we plan for that. And even though we're taking 2 million this year out of free cash for that, a couple of years ago, we took 2 million out to do the roofs. And we took 2 million out for another reason. So even when this project is done, we'll probably have other expenses that will use $2 million from free cash. Are there other opportunities that you could spend that $2 million on? Sure there are. But the Board of Selectmen is asking me to make the case that this is a good use of money for this project, for the needs of the town. And I think the only thing that I would take umbrage to is we're not doing anything else in town. We're doing a tremendous amount, more than that has ever been done before in this town. And from the standpoint of capital improvements, there's never been more capital improvements in this town than are going on right now.
Okay, the only reason why I ask on these is because my husband, listen, we have 2 separate checking accounts in this house because mine is, he manages it a lot better than me. That's a shock to the whole public now. That's why we have 2 separate ones. And he's always said to me, you don't spend what you don't have. So when I see, the year 24, 25, or 26, another year ahead, that's all it sticks in my head is we don't spend what we don't have. So that's why asking questions is better than making assumptions. And I'm glad we're having this. I guess might be why I was asking about the marijuana money and what resources we had coming in on that. Because I thought, when I remember and I go back to some of the selectmen meetings, and I'm going back probably, I'm gonna say in 2021, maybe, we were supposed to be getting like 3% of the income. We were supposed to be getting a larger sum of money from the marijuana resales, from the sales. So I'm still having a hard time where, correct me, did you say we only received 2 payments of 70,000?
Yeah, 2 quarterly payments, as far as I know, they're about 70,000, I think. I'll have to double check that, but it wasn't as much as they had expected. But even so, that's not the lion's share of the money that, at least in the outset, that would have an impact. There was some money that came out of the agreements that were done with the outfit. And, but those payments won't come in for, I think, another 6 months. So they don't have any impact on financial decisions in this year, because it just that, like you said, don't spend money you don't have, so.
Yeah,
So
I
that money just isn't there just yet.
alright, cause I was just thinking that like it was supposed to be a 3% payment. I just thought it was going to be a lot more lucrative for us.
Yeah,
Taking that
you
on.
don't need both.
So, well, alright, so it was that, and then and I'm glad you were saying some of the safety issues, are around the center. So even hopefully, depending on what happens with this article, if it passes, doesn't pass, maybe that's something we can look at in the spring. If it does not pass, that we make it a little bit safer, the crosswalks, things like that. Moving forward, I mean, the money aspect does make me nervous because our taxes have been raised in the last 2 years. I'm hoping come November, we don't go up again. I mean, and again, I can't say it enough. I hear it from my husband all the time. We don't spend what we don't have. And that's what makes me nervous with it. The last question I have is, I know that the Mass Downtown Grant was used for 15K, and that was, you said, in 2020, right before COVID took effect, right?
Yeah, the downtown initiative, yes.
Right, okay. So I don't know if you remember, I think it was in 22, you were doing the neighborhood meetings. Actually, we were still in COVID at the time, so maybe sooner than that. There was a $250,000 grant from the federal government. I don't know if we ever applied for it. And that was through Biden's infrastructure plans. But and the design and everything is still from what we did previous years, back in, what was it, 2012, 14?
So it's actually been modified, because we had, Stantec was the engineering firm that came in. And through that Mass Downtown Initiative grant, and they went through the plan and they made recommendations, changes to the plan. So it is very similar to what was there before, but there are some changes to it that I think have made it a much better plan. And that was based on feedback they received from different people, different
Yeah.
states.
I said last question, but sorry, I just remembered, the Glad Valley Lexington Road has come up in conversation tonight. And I believe that's in 2026. I think they're continuing the sidewalks from there all the way down to the center. Maybe that's what Marlise is talking about. I don't remember seeing anything on the tip project for 2029.
Yeah, I don't either, but
I didn't,
you are correct that those sidewalks will connect from Lock Road all the way up to basically Tower Farm.
okay. And I mean, that is a project personally, I'd like to see get done faster. Then, I mean, this is my personal, I have to talk to people in my precinct on how they want me to vote on this. This isn't how Kelly wants to vote. I have to vote by the people in my precinct tell me to do. I mean, personally, I'd like to see Glad Valley get done first, because I think that was in the works since 2018. We had it designed, and then we did the MassDOT meeting. Was that in the 20 to the right when COVID struck? We did it online. I remember a Zoom meeting. So I guess that's it. They doesn't seem like that's not scheduled until 2026 now.
Right, so the two things that make that an issue are, one is that is actually a state road, where this is not. This road, the town center, is controlled by the town,
Right.
controlled by the state. And the money that's being used to fund that Glad Valley project is state money. It's a tip project. So we're at the mercy of where they want to schedule it. So
Yeah.
we can't do that project because it's not our road.
right,
But we can do this project because it's our road, and that's why this project is before the town meeting and not the Glad Valley project.
right, so we don't have to like, because the center is our center, that section of Boston Road is the town's. You know, we maintain, I mean, they do maintain it, but it's still, that's what, it's our center, that's what we call it. And I get with the tip project going up the street, and I understand the 700,000 for the water mains, because if it's gonna get dug up, we might as well do that then. Well,
Right,
it's being done instead of using our funds. I guess last one, I promise. The parking lot, when I'm looking over at O'Connor's and you have the parking lot with in front of Walgreens.
yes.
And it has traffic coming in, traffic going out. I don't know if that's something, if the engineers probably thought about it, if that could end up being a cut through.
Well, so you can't go, well, I guess in theory, I guess you mean people are gonna go in here?
Yeah,
and
come
cut
out,
through
yeah,
the corners?
yeah. Or go in,
I don't
coming.
see that happening because you have a dedicated left-hand turn here to go into O'Connor's Plaza. Here you have to cross a rumble strip, cross on ongoing traffic to get in there. I mean, I would think that most people of a certain level of intelligence are gonna go through the controlled signal rather than try to cross oncoming traffic on a rumble strip.
Right. So I mean, I guess I'm looking at it like coming down, or people not wanting to sit through the light at O'Connor's and instead cutting through that and then going back onto Boston Road.
I guess that's possible, yeah.
You know, and then you've got a little, you don't want to jam up in that section because now you've got people at a light and now you've gotten beating. So I guess the engineers would look at that more depth than I would. It's not my purview, but thank you for answering my questions.
All right, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly. John, there's no more questions on the town center, unless anybody else wants to raise their hand and ask one question. No, doesn't look like anything else, John.
All right, so I'll just go through the DPW and that will be it. So the DPW, they're considered obviously first responders like our police and fire. Under the Homeland Security Directive, that's taken place, so. People always they kind of take it for granted, but certainly when we had the flooding in the last month, it was the DPW that was out helping out as well as the fire department too. So they are a vital part of our public safety system, and I think we should we need to find the appropriate facility for them. So this is some background, most of the stuff people probably know, but it touches everyone's lives every day. They provide care and maintenance to the six town-owned cemeteries, they manage curbside trash and recycle, maintain about 215 individual pieces of vehicle equipment, snow and ice removal operations. They do engineering services and support capital improvement projects. And administration oversees and manages all street opening permits and contract bonds. On call 24 hours a day. And you see them working, I'm sure, all over the place. So I'm not gonna go through all of this, so we'll back down to this. So why does the town need a new public works facility? Operations are spread out at multiple locations across town, so the administrative and engineering is located here in Town Hall. The highway department is down at 250 Boston Road. The Parks and Trees is over at 67 Alexander Road. Cemetery is over at 130 Andover Road. And then the water department is located at Treble Cove Road. So you have all these departments all over the place. It makes it very difficult to manage personnel when people are spread out all over town. And wastewater is located up on Letchworth Ave. Oh, and I forgot about the fuels facility, which is over at the water treatment, near the water treatment plant now. So why does the town, so responsibilities have increased over the years. And our facilities have certainly not kept pace with that. A feasibility study was done in 2007. We updated that, that's what we worked off of. and efficiencies of operations and employee safety very much negatively impacted by the current conditions. You can see this is a picture of the what used to be the water treatment plant, but now it's actually part of the DBW, but it's structurally compromised, and that was built in 1898. So these are just some pictures of some of the conditions that they're currently working in. This is where their living quarters, or where they go to change, and it's really not acceptable. All of our equipment, much of the equipment you see here is new equipment that we can't store inside because we don't have the garage space to do that. So what we've been looking at is this area behind Treble Cove Road down by VVP. And maybe most people would recognize it best by, if you know where the dog park is, you go down Treble Cove and then you take a left down towards where that dog park is. And then you go under the highway to go to the water treatment plant. That would be right here. And you go left, and then this area here is where the new DPW facility would be. So that's the water treatment plant right there. That is the existing fuel depot. So it kind of makes sense to pull this stuff all together. So we've done all the site work preparation for this. So we've identified the wetlands, and so that area over to the left is the area that we can safely do something with. That's a proposed development area. That's just a footprint of the building that you can see, and then you can see the wetlands that are near it. So this is a site that we've been able to use for water treatment here, and then this is our fuel depot, and there's some other storage going on here. But then back in here are the wetlands and dog pounds in the back here as well. And these are neighborhoods in the back, which we have met with all of these residents. So that's a fuel facility, the bulk storage, the dog pound, as I mentioned, that's the new facility. And then this is a close-up of the footprint of the site. There would be access out onto this River Street extension, but it would only be for the public. All of the work traffic would be coming through the back here. And public traffic at a DPW is minimal, because not many people go there for business. So the main new building is here in the blue. The parking is, so there'd be parking up here. That's the administrative parking, that's where the public would park. This is, employees would park here. Whoops, you go back there. So we'd also make sure that there's extra screening to protect these neighbors over here. Vegetation, and we have met with those neighbors. This would be a canopy where you could store plows and things of that nature underneath there. We didn't extend it back here because there's a lot of ledge in here that would be too expensive for the amount of space we're actually gaining. Didn't make sense. Salt storage structure would be right there on the other. We tried to keep all the business stuff happening on this side to lessen the amount of noise that could impact the residents. Bulk storage would be over here, and this is a floor plan. So over here is the admin area, that engineering and the director and clerical would all be in here, and this is where the DPW workers would come. That's where their lockers were and everything else. This large area here is a huge garage, and then over here are all the different workshops. There's a wash bay, mechanics bay. So this is a viewpoint from River Street Extension right here. So I'm going to show you a conceptual elevation plan from this viewpoint next. That's what it would look like if you were looking at it from that viewpoint. And that's what we look at, what it would look like when all the vegetation is put in place. looking from the northeast side. So from over here, it would look like this. So that's the salt shed, and that's what it would look like from that side. Although not many people are gonna actually see it from there unless you're out in the middle of the woods. So coming into the site from the River Street Extension, there were 6 to 8 employees that would enter at 8:30 a.m. So just the admin employees would come in that way. And less than 2 trips an hour between 8:30 and 3:30, and 6 to 8 employees leaving at 4. So there's very little traffic that'll come in on that side. But the reason we chose to do it that way, we originally thought of not allowing people out this way at all. But it made sense to do this so that we could put all the admin on this side and keep the business over here, so that you know, it would be moved away from the residential area, which is right here. So we also did a sound study, and the sound study showed that there was no noise impact created by this facility. And so they basically go out and they put the sound detectors out near in line with where the neighborhoods are to make sure that we wouldn't be impacting that. So the HVAC equipment will be actually inside instead of on the roof, and DPW operations are not expected to create the noise impacts that would affect nearby residents. So the other thing to keep in mind is that we're also going to put a salt structure at the 67 Alexander Road site, so that we will have salt storage capacity in 2 parts of town, because Billerica is so big, so that in the middle of a storm, you know, you don't have to go to one place. If you're in this part of town, you can go over here. You're in this part of town, you can go over here. That way, we could more efficiently serve the town's coverage. This is what the satellite salt structure would look like at Alexander Road. So what are the benefits? Would be code compliant and safe work environment for town employees. These are much better than the pictures that I showed you earlier. Protect the town's multi-million-dollar investments, so all these vehicles will now be stored inside. There will also be, you'll be able to wash them on a regular basis and wash the undercarriage, get the salt off. Because we'll have our own wash facility. Creates a consolidated public works operation, improving overall efficiencies for the department, so they'll all be in the same place. And it eliminates the need to invest money in the existing facility, which is really beyond repair. So replaces facilities long past their useful life before an emergency comes up. So the schedule is that if it passes the town meeting, the bid would go out in the fall and the winter, and this construction would start in the spring. So the cost estimate is basically $50 million. Construction being the biggest piece of that at 43 million, $3 million contingency, and soft costs is 1.3. Soft costs is design, like is permits and design and things like different permit fees and surveys and things like that. Design, management, and administration is 2.2 million. It'll take roughly 20 to 24 months to build. And that's it. So if you have any questions about that, it's a $50 million bond authorization, and it will require a 2/3 vote. So Clancy, if anyone has any questions.
As of right now, nobody has their hand raised. Does anybody have any questions on the DPW? Oh, we got one here. Hold on. Go ahead, Marlies.
Good evening. Yes, I'm still here. I have two notes for this presentation. With the image of how the DPW is very spread out, all the red dots will remain. So can you explain how it will be less spread out? Does it just mean that all the department heads are now pulled together, or because the red dots remain?
So parks and trees will now not be in Alexander Road, they will be moved into this new DPW facility. Engineering and admin will be moved out of town hall and moved into that facility. So not all of the red dots will remain. The cemetery dot will remain because we can't move the cemetery. In Letchworth Ave will still remain where it is because we can't move the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah.
But water, fuel depot, and everything else will be in that general facility.
But the water treatment plant doesn't get moved either.
No, but it's right there. It's right in the same complex.
Okay, but that, yeah, so that red dot doesn't change, and the town hall doesn't change either. But
Well,
you
that
might
does
just-
change because DPW will not be in town hall anymore.
Yeah, but you will.
I will, but I'm not DPW.
Yeah, but the town hall is still there.
Yeah, I mean, but the point of that slide was to show that the DPW is spread out all over
Yeah,
town.
yeah,
And we're
okay.
trying to bring them together.
okay. And you mentioned, and this is not, it's not a big thing, but you called the Billerica Waterworks the water treatment plant, but that was a pump house. When we had wells there,
Yes,
the historic building, a pump house. We did have the water treatment plant there at some point, but that's not there anymore. Yeah, the Billerica Waterworks was a pump house.
okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's, like, thank
Okay,
you.
and that's all. Thank you for the presentation and the time. I think it's a good idea to have sort of a pre-meeting.
Oh, thank you, yeah, I think this has worked well for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlies.
Thank
John, we have Ilya. Go ahead, Ilya.
Hey, just a quick question. With a $50 million investment in a facility like this, has the town thought about additional personnel? You know, are you gonna need janitors? Are you gonna need, you know, to maintain a $50 million facility? So what was the town, you know, are we just spending this and then hoping it stays, you know, in this maintained, or is there gonna be then a staffing you know, budget sort of earmark to make sure that we have, you know, these facilities are maintained also?
So it's a good question. So we do have a facilities department. And so generally they do go down to the current DPW facility because it's very often there's problems down there and our facilities department goes down there and handles them. So we will have to, you know, modify our budget for facilities to ensure that well, one, general maintenance takes place in the form of cleaning, which hopefully we'll be able to keep that within the DPW. But then the other maintenance, like if you had a water leak or something breaks, that will fall under the facilities department, and we'll have to make sure that they'll be able to handle that. And we are generally working on that anyway, because we've been expanding our facilities department over the last couple of years, to try to address, you know, you make sure that our infrastructure is preserved. And we've done pretty well. We've gotten a lot of improvements to town buildings over the last few years.
Okay, as long as it's considered that, you know, you don't just build a $50 million building and then hope it maintains itself.
No, point taken, thank you.
John, it looks like at this time, there's nobody else with their hand raised.
Okay, so if you do have any other questions about the warrant, feel free to call my office, 978-671-0942, or you can send us an email. We're here, we'll be able to answer your questions. If you don't have one right away, we'll get one for you. But, you know, my door is open for any town meeting members that wants to talk about anything that's on the warrant. And I appreciate you taking the time out tonight to get yourself prepared for the town meeting. And the auditorium has been completely renovated, and it will be ready for Tuesday night. And I think I think you'll all be happy with the outcome. It does look beautiful. And they're fine tuning all the audio stuff now. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that everything works on Tuesday, so we'll see you Tuesday night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.